My name is Daniel, and I have a twin brother named Jason. Growing up, we were always treated a little differently. I always imagined myself to be the obedient son, the one who would stick around, help out when needed, and be there for my parents no matter what. However, life has a funny way of revealing people's true colors when money is involved. Though I was the quieter one and preferred books over sports, computers over parties, I always knew that Jason was the favorite of the two of us. I never imagined that it would come to this. We both graduated from college on the same day, which was supposed to be a proud moment for our family. Jason was the golden child, the athletic, popular child who could do no wrong in my parents' eyes. The day after graduation, Jason's parents surprised him with a brand new luxury car, a sleek black BMW. And he was thrilled, jumping up and down and hugging our parents as if they had just given him the keys to a mansion. Jason had chosen the traditional route of studying business, but I had chosen a different path. I had started working online when I was 16, saving every penny I could. By the time we graduated, I had a respectable amount of money saved up, not enough to be wealthy, but enough to be comfortable. When my dad handed me an envelope, I felt a strange pit in my stomach because inside was a bill with a long list of numbers, amounts, and final totals that I stared at, confused. I was genuinely happy for him, but I couldn't help but wonder what about me. I didn't expect a car that wasn't my style, maybe a watch, or even just a heartfelt letter that said, "I'm proud of you." It's only fair that my mother grinned as though she had just given me the greatest present ever. "Daniel, it's time for you to support the family because you've saved so much money throughout the years of working." My dad nodded. I felt my blood run cold because they weren't giving me a gift. Instead, they were giving me their debt, expecting me to pay it off while rewarding Jason with a fancy car. They actually believed this was fair. Jason doesn't have any money saved up yet, and he will need assistance getting started in life, but you are responsible and have money. This is just a small way for you to contribute. Jason simply shrugged and said, "Come on, man, you always say you don't care about money." That's when I made my decision. I took a deep breath, folded the paper neatly, and slid it back into the envelope. "Thank you for this," I said in a voice that was truly eye-opening. I had expected to see a little guilt or a "hey, this isn't right." They didn't try to stop me, so I don't think they fully understood what I was doing yet, but that would change soon enough because 2 weeks later I received the first desperate call, which I ignored, followed by the second EY, and the third call. My mom smiled, knowing you'd understand, so I smiled back, packed my bags, and left. My voicemail was filled with messages from my parents, brother, and aunt. At first, they were casual, saying things like, "Hey Daniel, we just wanted to check in, call us back." Later, they became more insistent, saying things like, "Why aren't you answering? We need to talk," but I didn't mean it that way. For the first time in my life, I was putting myself first. The first week after I left, I stayed at a cheap Airbnb in a different city. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do yet, but I knew I wasn't going back. I had enough savings to figure things out. However, my parents weren't as fortunate, which is why my brother started calling at tea at first. It was all bravado. "Stop being dramatic, just come back already." My mom changed tactics. The woman who had smiled as she handed me a bill instead of congratulating me said, "Daniel, sweetheart, we're struggling. You know we've always supported you. Can't you just help us out a little?" Then the real panic struck. One evening, I was checking my email when I saw a message from my dad that said, "Please read this." Sony hesitated, but curiosity won out. "We took out some debts that we are unable to repay, Daniel, and although we believed we could manage them, things are becoming worse. Since you've always been so self-sufficient and responsible, we assumed that Jason wouldn't mind if he didn't have the resources to assist us. I apologize, but we need you, so please at least give us a call back." I stared at the email for a long time because it was the first time they had even come close to admitting they were wrong, but it wasn't really an apology. They weren't sorry for how they had treated me. They were just sorry that I had left. I had watched them favor Jason, give him everything, and make excuses for him, expecting me to be the responsible one. Now, when their decisions had finally caught up to them, who did they turn to? Jason, the son they had prioritized for years, wasn't capable of helping them, so I closed the email without answering. A few days later, I received the call that changed everything. It was my aunt, and for the first time, I hesitated before choosing to answer. I wasn't sure what to expect from my aunt, who wasn't as involved in the drama, but had always been somewhat of a peacemaker between me and my parents. Daniel's tone was kind, almost imploring. "Can we have a moment to talk?" After a long pause, she said, "Please don't be like this. They made a mistake. They thought you would understand. They didn't mean for things to go this way." I could hear the desperation in her voice, but I wasn't backing down. Not now, not after everything that had happened. I took a deep breath and asked the question that had been circling in my head for days. "Why, Aunt Karen, why did they buy Jason a car if they're struggling? And how is that even possible if they're in debt? How could they believe it was acceptable?" She paused for a long time before speaking, but her voice was tremulous. "I don't know, Daniel. They just assumed they could handle it. They always wanted to give Jason the best, and they thought it would be a good way to celebrate his graduation. They never imagined you'd leave over it." I felt the weight of her words, but it didn't change anything. My parents had always put Jason first and given him whatever he wanted, and now they had crossed a line that I couldn't ignore. What did I get for graduating? Well, a bill for their debt. I couldn't keep the resentment out of my voice. She was silent for a while. "They didn't know how to show you that they were proud of you, Daniel. They thought you'd understand because you've always been the responsible one. They were wrong, though, and they truly regret it." She couldn't see me, so I shook my head. I could feel the anger rising, but I maintained my composure. "It's not about that. It's about respect and how they've treated me over the years, always elevating Jason and expecting me to handle everything else. Instead of giving me a car, an opportunity, or even a proper thank you for all the work I've done, they gave me their problems, and now they want me to fix them." Aunt Karen was quiet for a while. "Daniel, the emotional toll was too great, but something inside me softened a little, maybe because I said, but they have to show me they're serious. This can't just be another excuse if they really want to fix things." "Thank you, Daniel." Aunt Karen sighed in relief. "I think they're finally realizing they've messed up. They just don't know how to fix it. Please come home and let them make it up to you." Before I could reply, she said, "I know this isn't easy, but there's something you should know." "Yes," she said quietly, "but more than that, he's beginning to see the wider picture and realize how much you've done for the family and how much he's taken for granted. Jason called me too and asked if you'd return. He's not as unconcerned as you think." I scowled. I wasn't sure how to feel about that. Jason, the golden boy, realized that his actions seemed too wonderful to be true, but perhaps things could turn out differently. I wasn't sure whether I was ready to go back yet, but I had a sense that this narrative wasn't finished yet, and I would hear something in the next discussion that would force me to make a decision at last. As the days went by, I remained in my tiny Airbnb, going through my thoughts and still refusing to call back, but then suddenly, on a Thursday night, my phone buzzed. I didn't know the number, but I answered nonetheless. "Daniel," and it was Jason. "Yes," I said in a chilly voice. Jason's voice was unsteady, and he paused for a long time before continuing. "Daniel, I apologize, but things got worse. My heart fell when they had to sell the automobile, but I couldn't help but feel vindicated because my parents never listened to me when I attempted to talk to them and they said they would manage. They had no option but to echo my speech coldly, and yes," Jason's voice broke. "We were unable to make the payments due to the mounting debts, so they sold it to pay off part of the debt, but Daniel, it's gone. Man, I'm not sure what to say." With my chair reclined, I gazed out the window. They had picked Jason, given him a car, and thrown my efforts in my face. Now that all of their mistakes were coming back to haunt them, they were losing everything. I wanted to brag and rub their faces, but I remained silent for a while. Feelings of satisfaction were mixed with something darker. I couldn't help but feel sorry for Jason as he continued to talk in a broken voice, so I eventually spoke out. "Jason, you should have anticipated that they wouldn't have the resources to continue, so you didn't need to lose the automobile. They normally count on me to clean up their mess, but this time I wasn't there to do it." Jason remained quiet, so I warned them as well. I went on, sharp. Now, when they gave me that bill rather as a present, I told them it would come back to haunt them, and it has. Jason became frantic in his voice. They didn't want for this to happen. We never intended for it to go this way. Daniel, please, I know this is screwed up, but I took a minute to enjoy the sense of power I had after finally escaping their hold after years of coming in second. You know what, Jason, if they had been a bit more considerate, they wouldn't be in this predicament today. I hope it hurts. I responded icily that perhaps it's a lesson they had to learn the hard way. For a moment, I felt horrible when Jason started weeping, but then I saw my parents' arrogant smiles as they gave me the bill. I didn't feel bad. I hung up the phone when Jason's sobs reverberated, and for the first time, I felt a sense of justice as the scales were finally balanced and my family was finally learning the consequences of their actions. The next few days were quiet, and I kept to myself, staying at the Airbnb and not answering any calls or messages. I didn't even check my phone much, other than to catch up on work. It felt liberating, really, to not have to deal with anyone's drama any longer. On Sunday afternoon, I received a call from an unknown number, and I was about to ignore it, but something inside me told me it was time to confront it head-on, so I picked Daniel up. I didn't respond right away. Instead, I leaned back in my chair and gently exhaled. It had taken them this long to reach me, and it felt wonderful to know they were finally on the other end of the phone. My mom's voice sounded strained and urgent. Please, could you just listen to us? I could hear the begging in her voice, but it didn't affect me. Daniel, we realize we made a mistake. We never should have placed so much pressure on you. We should have been better. We're so sorry. Please come back. We'll repair everything. Just come home. I said slowly, allowing the sarcasm to seep into my words. Mom, you're sorry for what exactly? Buying Jason a car while I was left to handle your mess is what you're sorry for, or are you sorry because you had to sell it? This was the same woman who had always told me to be responsible while giving Jason whatever he wanted. She was also the one who, instead of recognizing my hard work, had handed me a bill for their failures. Daniel, I could just hear her brain attempting to comprehend the fact that what she had done was true. We never intended for things to become this terrible. Although she couldn't see me, I rolled my eyes as my mother begged, please just come back, her voice cracking. We'll do whatever it takes to make it right. You're still our son, and we love you. I'm sure you love me, I said flatly, but after everything they had done to me, you didn't think of me once when you made those decisions. I paused to let that sink in, and then I added, honestly, I don't need your apology, it's too late for that. The line went silent again, and I could feel my anger building, but I maintained my composure, just like I had learned over the years. I'm not coming home, Mom. You made your decisions and now you're going to live with the consequences. My dad's voice came on the line after a long, drawn-out silence, sounded strained and frantic. I'm not here to clean up your mess anymore. Daniel, please, we were mistaken. We never intended to push you away. I laughed softly, and my voice was ripped with disdain. You have a funny way of expressing this. You bought Jason a car, gave me a bill, and expected me to keep taking it. Instead of pushing me away, you kicked me to the curb. My dad's voice cracked. We were only trying to give Jason something so he would be proud of his graduation, and we thought that would make it right. However, we've since realized that it wasn't worth it, especially if it meant losing you. You lost me, and you're not getting me back just because you've suddenly realized your mistakes, I stated sharply. When I said, I'm done here, I waited to allow the stillness to grow between us. Keep your apologies and your guilt, and maybe the next time you want to celebrate someone, think about who you're leaving in the dust without waiting for a response. The joy of finally putting my foot down set in as I closed the conversation and looked at my phone for a while. They had taken me for granted for far too long, but now they understood what it was like to lose me. Although I could still hear their apologies, it didn't matter because they had already had their opportunity and would now have to deal with the fallout. I didn't hear from them for weeks after that phone call. The silence was almost as loud as the chaw that had preceded that moment. I continued to work and enjoy the freedom and peace I had worked so hard to achieve until one afternoon, a package arrived for my parents. I stared at it for a while, not sure what it was, but curiosity overcame me, and when I opened it, I saw a simple handwritten letter on paper that had been folded too many times. We know we hurt you, Daniel, and we've come to terms with the fact that we lost something far more valuable than a car or a gift we could never afford, but we want you to know that we're sorry and that we will always love you, even if you never return. Please remember that I read the letter twice, my eyes skimming over the words, feeling as though it wasn't enough, not even close. Without giving it any thought, I tossed the letter in the garbage. I wasn't upset anymore, but I felt different once the pleasure of not being influenced by their last-ditch effort set in. For Jason, I had gotten a couple more messages from him expressing regret for getting caught in the center. I overlooked those as well. He would have to suffer the results of his decision since he had picked his side. Life continued. I kept expanding my company and pushing ahead with my ideas. It was all on my terms now, and I wasn't going to allow anyone, least of all my family, take it away from me. As for them, they would always have their regrets. But at least I didn't have to bear the burden of theirs anymore. The end had arrived, but it wasn't a sad one. It was a reminder that occasionally you have to leave the individuals who never gave you a chance to be seen so you may eventually see yourself properly. And for me, this was the start of a new chapter. Ultimately, Daniel took a daring decision. He ceased to let his family's behavior define his value. Walking away was difficult, but it allowed him to finally take charge of his own destiny. It's a difficult reality, but occasionally the most crucial relationship you can cultivate is the one with yourself. What's your opinion? Should Daniel have left or should he have given his family another shot? Share your thoughts by posting them. Please subscribe and turn on notifications to make sure you don't overlook any more stories like this one. Your ideas would also be much appreciated.